I had been waiting for this vacation for months. After non-stop work at the family company, I deserved a break. My husband, Marcus, and I had flown to the Caribbean, ready to soak up sun, sip cocktails, and forget about office stress. But little did I know, this vacation would become the starting point of the biggest challenge of my life. It all started on the third day. My phone buzzed incessantly with emails. Usually, I could ignore them, but curiosity got the best of me. One subject line caught my eye. Termination notice, effective immediately. I opened it, and my world stopped. The email was from my own father-in-law, the CEO of the company I had dedicated the last 5 years of my life to. It read, "Effective immediately, you are relieved of all your duties. We thank you for your service." I couldn't believe it. Fired while on vacation? No warning, no discussion, nothing. My first reaction was shock, then anger. How could he do this to me? We're family. And not just any family, his son is my husband. Marcus, he should have stood up for me, right? I immediately called him. Marcus sounded uncomfortable, like he already knew what was coming. I'm sorry, babe, he said. He made the decision. There's nothing I can do. Nothing he could do? My blood boiled. I had poured my heart into that company. I had built projects, closed deals, and even saved the company from a potential disaster last year. And now, in a single email, I was erased like I never existed. The rest of the day passed in a blur. I walked along the beach, feeling the sun on my face, trying to breathe, trying to convince myself this wasn't real. But deep down, I knew this was personal. This wasn't about performance. This was about control, power, and maybe jealousy. That night, as I watched the waves crash against the shore, a plan began to form in my mind. If he thought this would break me, he was gravely mistaken. I may have been fired, but I was far from defeated. And the moment I returned home, I promised myself my comeback would be perfect. If you want to see how I turned my firing into the comeback of a lifetime, stay tuned for next. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for the full story. The next morning, I woke up feeling restless, my mind racing with thoughts of what had just happened. I couldn't eat, couldn't focus, and worst of all, I couldn't stop replaying that email over and over in my head. How could my father-in-law fire me without even a conversation, without even a warning? I tried calling Marcus again, but this time he didn't pick up. I left a voicemail, my voice trembling as I explained how hurt and betrayed I felt. I thought he would defend me, at least stand by me, but the silence was deafening. Every ring of my phone made my stomach drop. It wasn't just Marcus who disappointed me. I couldn't stop thinking about my father-in-law, the man I once admired. He had been my mentor in the company, teaching me the ropes, guiding me through the tough decisions, and now he was the one who had betrayed me. But why? Why now, while I was away? Was it personal, or was it something else? By mid-afternoon, I decided I couldn't sit idly by. I started recalling every interaction, every meeting, every email I had sent over the past few months. Something didn't add up. There had been whispers of shady deals, employees being silenced, and a few sudden resignations. Could it be that my father-in-law was hiding something? And did my being fired have anything to do with what I might have discovered? When I confronted Marcus that evening, he finally admitted the truth, or at least part of it. He's been under pressure, he said reluctantly. He doesn't want you involved in certain things. It's complicated. I stared at him, feeling a mix of anger and disbelief. Complicated? I snapped. I've given everything to that company, and you're just standing there letting him throw me out? Marcus lowered his gaze. I didn't know how to fight him. He's your father-in-law, and he's ruthless. I didn't want to make things worse for you, or for us. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But instead, I took a deep breath and made a decision. This wasn't the end, it was the beginning. If the people I trusted were blind to the truth, then I would find it myself. I would uncover whatever secrets my father-in-law was hiding, and I would make sure justice was served, not just for me, but for everyone who had been silenced, ignored, or betrayed in that company. That night, I sat by the balcony, watching the city lights twinkle in the distance. I promised myself that I wouldn't be a victim of someone else's power. My comeback would be strategic, calculated, and unstoppable. And one day, the same people who laughed at my firing would be the ones watching me rise, stronger, wiser, and victorious. Don't miss the next, where I begin secretly investigating the company and uncover shocking secrets. Hit that like button, share this story, and subscribe to follow every twist of my journey. The moment I returned home from vacation, I knew I couldn't waste any time. Being fired had shaken me, but it had also awakened something fierce inside me. I was determined to uncover what was really happening at the company and why my father-in-law had gone to such extreme lengths to push me out. I started quietly. I couldn't just march into the office. I'd been banned, after all, but I still had contacts, old colleagues who trusted me. I reached out to a few of them, pretending everything was casual, but carefully observing their reactions. Some were nervous, some hesitant, and some clearly scared. That alone told me something was wrong. The company wasn't just mismanaged, it was hiding dangerous secrets. Late at night, I began combing through old files and documents I had saved on my personal drive. I had always been thorough in my work, archiving contracts, emails, and reports. What I found made my heart race. There were inconsistencies, hidden transactions, and suspicious approvals, things that could ruin the company if exposed. And one name kept appearing in these shady dealings: my father-in-law. It wasn't just about money. There were cover-ups, layoffs, and decisions that put employees at risk, all hidden under layers of paperwork and official statements. Suddenly, the firing made sense. He didn't want me digging, didn't want me to uncover what he was hiding. I had been too close, too smart, and too observant. I realized I had to be careful. One wrong move, and not only could I lose any leverage, but I could also put myself in danger. I needed proof, undeniable proof, before I confronted anyone. So I started documenting everything meticulously: screenshots, copies, and secure backups. Every piece of evidence was a brick in the foundation of my plan. Meanwhile, I also had to navigate Marcus. He was torn. He didn't want to betray his father, but he also didn't want to lose me. I used this carefully. I didn't push him too hard, but I subtly reminded him of the injustice and the truth. Slowly, he began helping me, passing along small tips and insider information he couldn't otherwise share. By the end of the week, I had more than enough to start piecing the puzzle together. I could see the bigger picture now. My father-in-law's empire was built not just on hard work, but on manipulation, secrecy, and intimidation. And now, the person who had once been his target was ready to turn the tables. For the first time since that shocking email, I felt a surge of power. I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was a strategist, a force to be reckoned with. And soon, the same people who laughed at my firing would wish they had never underestimated me. Stay tuned for next, where I uncover the shocking betrayal and corruption at the heart of the company. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to follow my epic comeback. Every late night I spent digging into company files was paying off. What I discovered next shook me to my core. It wasn't just about shady deals or hidden transactions. There was a full-blown betrayal at the heart of the company. And the person orchestrating it? My own father-in-law. I had always respected him, trusted him even. But now I saw the truth. He had been manipulating everyone around him for years. He had been secretly diverting funds, covering up failed projects, and even sabotaging employees who threatened his control. The deeper I dug, the worse it got. And then I found the proof of his latest scheme. He was planning to sell a critical division of the company to an outside investor, one that would leave countless loyal employees jobless, all while pocketing millions for himself. He had already begun setting things in motion, quietly moving money and contracts behind closed doors. What hurt the most wasn't just the corruption, it was the betrayal of trust. He had used me for years, praising my work, seeking my advice, making me think I was part of the family legacy. All the while, he knew I might eventually see through him, and the moment I became inconvenient, he fired me, not for mistakes, not for performance, but to silence me. I felt a rush of anger, but I knew I couldn't act recklessly. This was bigger than my pride. It was about justice and making sure the right people were protected. I documented everything meticulously. Emails, financial records, contracts, and even witness statements from employees who had been too scared to speak out. Each piece of evidence strengthened my case and my resolve. Then came the hardest part, Marcus. I had to confront him, not with accusations, but with the truth. He looked at me, guilt written all over his face when I showed him the evidence. I didn't want to believe it, he admitted softly, but you're right, he's gone too far. Together, we began planning a strategy. We couldn't just storm in and accuse him. We needed a flawless plan, one that would expose him publicly and restore the company's integrity. The idea wasn't revenge in the petty sense, it was justice served with precision, and the thought of seeing him realize I had outsmarted him, that was satisfying enough. That night, I stood in front of my mirror, looking at my reflection. The woman staring back was no longer the frightened employee on vacation. She was calculated, fearless, and ready. My father-in-law had made one fatal mistake, underestimating me. And now, the countdown for my perfect comeback had officially begun. Don't miss the next twist where I start executing my comeback plan and set the stage for a dramatic showdown. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to follow every twist of my story. After days of planning and sleepless nights, I was finally ready to make my move. I had gathered undeniable evidence of my father-in-law's corruption, secured witness statements, and mapped out every step of my strategy. This wasn't about revenge, it was about justice and showing everyone that I wouldn't be silenced. I started subtly, re-entering the company world through trusted allies. I reached out to board members I had worked closely with, carefully hinting at irregularities and potential risks in the company. I didn't reveal everything at once. I needed their curiosity piqued, their concern growing. They trusted me because I had proven myself over the years, and that trust was my most powerful weapon. Next, I organized a series of discreet meetings with the legal and financial teams. I presented evidence in a calm, professional way, making sure that no one could dismiss my findings as personal vendetta. As I walked them through the documents, contracts, and email trails, I could see their eyes widen in disbelief. The pieces of the puzzle fit together perfectly, and they realized the danger the company had been in. Meanwhile, Marcus stayed close, offering subtle guidance and insider knowledge without drawing attention. Together, we were a quiet but formidable team. I couldn't risk him being noticed by his father, so we kept our alliance secret, like chess players plotting the final moves before the checkmate. The next step was the most delicate, preparing for the board meeting where everything would be revealed. I had to time it perfectly, ensuring that all key decision-makers were present and ready to witness the truth firsthand. Any slip could ruin everything, but I was ready. I had rehearsed, memorized facts, and anticipated every possible objection. Finally, the day came. I walked into the office composed and confident, carrying nothing but my files, my evidence, and my resolve. My father-in-law sat at the head of the table, smiling, unaware that the very person he had tried to destroy would be the one to bring him down. As the board meeting began, I let my presentation unfold naturally. I showed the evidence, highlighted the risks, and revealed the hidden transactions. There was no room for argument, no way to deny the facts. I could feel the tension rising in the room, my father-in-law's confident demeanor slipping, replaced by shock and fury. When I finished, silence filled the room. Every board member was staring at him, their expressions a mix of disbelief and concern. And then, finally, someone spoke up. This cannot continue. Action must be taken immediately. In that moment, I realized the tide had turned, the comeback had begun, and there was no turning back. I had proven not just my worth, but my courage, intelligence, and determination. Stay tuned for the next twist, where the dramatic boardroom showdown unfolds, and my father-in-law faces the consequences. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to follow the full story. The day of the boardroom showdown had finally arrived. I could feel the tension in the air as I walked into the sleek, glass-walled conference room. Every eye was on me, but my gaze was locked on the person who had started all of this, my father-in-law. He sat at the head of the table, exuding confidence, completely unaware that the storm he had unleashed was about to hit him full force. I set down my folder with calm precision, the stack of documents inside containing everything he had tried to hide, the hidden accounts, the shady contracts, and evidence of unethical decisions that endangered both employees and the company. Every file was bulletproof. Every email was a dagger he couldn't deflect. I started my presentation, voice steady, eyes locked on the board members. I walked them through the evidence carefully, explaining the risks, the irregularities, and the financial consequences of ignoring the truth. As I spoke, I noticed their reactions: shock, disbelief, and finally, realization. They were seeing the reality I had uncovered, and it was undeniable. Then I turned my attention to him. "You've built an empire," I said calmly, "but it's built on manipulation, secrecy, and betrayal. You thought you could silence me with a single email, but the truth has a way of coming out." His confident smirk faltered. He tried to interrupt, but I had anticipated this. I continued, presenting contracts with his signature, screenshots of hidden transactions, and internal communications that left no room for denial. Each piece of evidence landed like a punch. The board members leaned forward, eyes wide, whispering among themselves. Finally, one of the senior board members spoke. "This is shocking. We cannot allow this to continue. Immediate action must be taken to protect the company and its employees." I could feel my father-in-law's anger boiling. He stood, attempting to intimidate, to assert his authority, but the power had shifted. The room was no longer his. Every word he tried to use to defend himself was drowned out by the undeniable facts I had presented. In that moment, I realized something important. This wasn't about revenge. This was about justice. It was about proving that courage, intelligence, and integrity can overcome even the most ruthless obstacles. My father-in-law was forced to step down from key decisions, and the board implemented immediate measures to secure the company's future. As the meeting concluded, I felt a mixture of relief and pride. I had faced my fears, confronted betrayal, and emerged triumphant. Marcus, standing quietly in the corner, gave me a small, proud nod. We had done it, not just for ourselves, but for everyone who had suffered in silence. That day marked a new chapter for the company, for me, and for my family. I had turned a devastating setback into a triumphant comeback, and nothing could take that away. Don't miss the next twist where I secure my ultimate victory and see the consequences my father-in-law finally faces. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to follow the epic conclusion. The days following the boardroom showdown were a whirlwind. The company was shaken, but in the best possible way. My father-in-law's influence had been stripped, and the board had implemented new checks to prevent corruption. Employees who had once feared speaking up were now coming forward, expressing relief and gratitude. And amidst all this chaos, I felt something I hadn't in months: peace. Marcus and I spent long evenings talking about everything that had happened. He admitted how torn he had been, caught between loyalty to his father and supporting me. I forgave him because deep down I knew he had been trapped in a web he didn't fully control. What mattered was that we were united now. Together, we would help rebuild trust within the company and ensure it thrived without corruption. My father-in-law, on the other hand, faced consequences he couldn't escape. He had been removed from several key decision-making roles, and the board was investigating every move he had made. The smug, untouchable man I had once respected was now forced to confront the reality of his actions. Watching him struggle to maintain control while I observed quietly from the sidelines brought a quiet satisfaction. This wasn't about humiliating him, it was about ensuring justice and protecting the people who had been loyal to the company. I also began taking on new responsibilities. With the company's trust in me restored, I was offered a leadership role I had only dreamed of before. This was my chance to prove that I was not just competent, but visionary. I implemented new systems, emphasized transparency, and built a culture where employees felt valued and safe. Slowly, the company began to recover from the damage caused by my father-in-law's actions. But beyond the corporate victory, the personal triumph felt even greater. I had turned an unexpected firing, one that felt like the end of the world, into an opportunity to rise stronger than ever. I had learned that setbacks can be disguised blessings, and that courage, strategy, and persistence can outsmart even the most cunning opponents. One afternoon, as I walked through the office, employees stopped me to thank me for standing up and protecting their future. Their words warmed my heart, reminding me that my fight wasn't just about me, it was about fairness, justice, and integrity. That evening, I sat with Marcus, reflecting on how far we had come. "You were amazing," he said softly. "I don't know what I would have done without you." I smiled, knowing the journey wasn't just mine, it was ours. I had faced betrayal, injustice, and heartbreak, but in the end, I had emerged victorious. My father-in-law had underestimated me, and that was his biggest mistake. Don't miss the next twist, the epic conclusion where I celebrate my ultimate victory, personal growth, and the new chapter of my life. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to see the inspiring ending. It had been weeks since the boardroom showdown, but the impact of those events was still rippling through the company. My father-in-law, once untouchable, had been relegated to a limited role, stripped of power and influence. The board had reinforced transparency measures, ensuring that no one could exploit the company the way he had. The employees, who had once feared retaliation, were now thriving, their loyalty and morale restored. For me, this was more than a professional victory, it was personal growth. I had faced betrayal, humiliation, and doubt, yet I had emerged stronger and wiser. The woman who had once been blindsided by an email was now a force to be reckoned with, a leader who had not only uncovered corruption, but also inspired positive change. Marcus and I had grown closer than ever. Through the chaos, we had learned to trust each other completely. He had seen my strength firsthand, and I had learned the value of patience and strategy. Together, we were building a future rooted in respect, honesty, and partnership, not only in our marriage, but also in navigating the family business. I also began mentoring employees, sharing my journey and encouraging them to speak up when something didn't feel right. I wanted to create a culture where integrity and courage were celebrated, where people knew that speaking the truth would never be ignored. My story became a symbol of resilience, proving that no one should ever be underestimated because of fear, gender, or circumstance. But the sweetest part of this journey wasn't just the professional redemption. It was the realization that life can turn setbacks into stepping stones. The firing that had initially felt like the end of the world had, in reality, been the catalyst for my ultimate rise. I had taken control of my destiny, proving that determination, intelligence, and courage are far more powerful than fear or intimidation. One quiet evening, Marcus and I walked through the company lobby, greeted warmly by employees who had once feared speaking to me. Their smiles, their gratitude, and the renewed energy in the office filled me with a sense of accomplishment I had never imagined. I realized then that true victory isn't about revenge. It's about creating lasting change, earning respect, and standing tall no matter what life throws at you. As I stood by the window that night, looking out over the city lights, I felt a deep sense of pride and peace. The storm had passed, and I had emerged stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever came next. The journey had tested me, but it had also revealed my true power, and now, nothing could stop me. Thank you for following my journey. If you were inspired by my comeback, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more incredible stories of courage, resilience, and triumph.